patient at which level they are, and then you can go over to the etiology. Is the slide not moving further? Should I put my video off?
Sometimes at the bottom. So just go to the bottom of the screen. There's an arrow which will take it forward.
Try to...
No, the thing is, my slide is not going next. Yeah, okay, fine. I will just put my video off, I think. Yeah. So the EEG helps in establishing the diagnosis of encephalopathy. The most important thing is it tells us whether patient is suffering from subclinical seizures, patient is suffering from non-convulsive status epilepticus, which is one of the common thing which we see in metabolic, and gauging whether the severity of the brain dysfunction is how much, whether it is just a mild encephalopathy, severe or moderate. It tells you, because of this, it tells you what is the prognostication. And then it definitely helps in differentiating organic from psychiatric conditions, because the EEG will tell us if there is a
You've lost your voice.
I think the voice is
not probably a true encephalopathy. Yeah.
I think the internet is a little unstable.
Internet speed is maybe a bit slow, Sangeeta. Hello.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, but your voice is breaking at times. So maybe this internet speed is a bit slow.
Okay. I don't know. I don't have other internet here.
Anyway, you carry on. We can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yeah. I think your video should be off, and then...
yeah, that's why I put my video off, I think. Okay, now the important thing is EEG does not have a specificity for the etiology. But definitely there are certain patterns like triphasic waves, which we see more often in hepatic and renal insufficiency. We have an alpha coma, spindle coma, which is seen more in brainstem dysfunction. So definitely helps you towards that, but it does not tell you what is the etiology. So now let's see what are the gradual changes which we see in the EEG with a mild, moderate or severe encephalopathy. So whenever there is a mild encephalopathy, it starts with a slowing of the posterior rhythm. The alpha is getting replaced by the theta, and then it becomes a widespread theta going anteriorly also. An important thing is the reactivity to the visual stimuli may go down. Visual stimuli, and then later on even the tactile stimuli may go down. Then comes the moderate encephalopathy, where you have fluctuating patterns of alpha and theta in the amplitude varies from high amplitude to low amplitude, and it varies continuously. Then comes the third group, that is severe encephalopathy, where you have a further slowing in the large amplitude irregular delta. You may have a next group, it may be a small amplitude invariant delta less than 20 microvolt, which doesn't respond to anything, any stimuli. And then the final comes the burst suppression pattern, and then last is the electrocerebral silence. So let's just see the EEGs with this. So this is the first EEG, which is showing a mild encephalopathy. It shows a slowing of the posterior rhythm, and you can see that there is more and more slowing which is coming up on the posteriorly, and the theta is a little bit increasing. Then there's a theta has become now even frontal is also showing a theta. So it has increased, the theta activity has increased, and the alpha is very scanty. Then the third fluctuates, the alpha and theta may fluctuate, alternating pattern of theta alpha, and then intermittent delta starts coming. And then we have a further down, then the delta becomes more pronounced, large amplitude theta delta, and the background becomes quite chaotic, and you have a continuous alternating patterns of theta and delta. Further going down, you may have a large amplitude irregular delta, which varies in the frequency and the amplitude. It may have 1 or 2 hertz, and then it may become a 2 or 3 hertz, or maybe 4 hertz. So irregular amplitude, irregular frequency, and a delta continuously goes on all throughout the background. Then it may also have, when it becomes a very further, the invariable small delta, which is amplitude is very low, less than 20 microvolts. Sometimes you see this pattern also in the severe encephalopathy. And then comes the burst suppression. Now, what is this burst suppression? This subtype of periodic pattern consists of burst of activity. That is a mix. There is a burst of sharp and slow waves periodically, which is interrupted by episodes of suppression. Suppression should be less than 10 microvolt. And typically, these episodes of suppressions are longer and compared to the 5 to 10 seconds, whereas the burst activity is 1 to 3 seconds. Usually, they are generalized, seen in extremely severe toxic or anoxic encephalopathy, and may precede the electrocerebral inactivity. Patients are usually in stupor or coma. Most commonly, we see when we are giving a propofol and other the agents for status epilepticus, and we want to achieve a burst suppression. So this is the typical burst suppression pattern. You can see these are the burst, and this is followed by a suppression. This burst may have sharp, slow mixture of sharp and slow wave combination, which lasts for a 1 second. And then the suppression is usually, this is showing a 2 second, but it may have a 5 to 10 seconds also. And the final stage is electrocerebral inactivity. So if you see on a 7 microvolt sensitivity, you may almost see like a flat line. If you reduce the sensitivity to 2 microvolt, you may see a small undulating rhythm, which may be seen at 2 microvolt. So this is electrocerebral inactivity. Patients at this stage are usually in a deep coma, and the prognosis is quite poor. Now, it is very important to have to check the reactivity to stimuli during whenever you are evaluating any ICU patient. You are going and you are doing an EEG, and you want to know, always try and see whether there is a response to the auditory or an noxious stimulus. So usually first you call the name of the patient, then you try and yell to the name of the patient loudly, and still if they can't, then you either shake, give a sternal rub, or give on the forehead. Then comes the tickle the nose, or try to open the eyes. So all this should have some stimuli. Now this stimulus induced should be change in frequency and amplitude of the background is required, not just the EMG artifact. So if you see this, that there is a change, there is an EMG artifact when you're giving the stimulus, but there is definitely a change in the background rhythm also. So this is what the actual reactivity means. It's not just the EMG artifact. It has to be a change in the background and the frequency also, which we should see after you give a stimulus, which may be either calling a name or shouting a name or giving a sternal rub or giving a suprasternal listen. Now, what are the indicators of grave prognosis? One is invariant small amplitude delta, which I already said, burst suppression pattern, electrocerebral silence, and no responsiveness to stimuli. So whenever you find a tetrad of one of this and combination usually are together, then the severity of encephalopathy is quite severe and the prognosis is quite bad. So now let's move over to the metabolic conditions, which I will go through over it in the next 20-25 minutes. The main important thing which you have to remember in metabolic is that the rate of change of the metabolite or a toxin or electrolyte is more important for determining the degree of EEG abnormality rather than the absolute level. So if there is a rapid fall or rapid rise, the EEG changes are definitely more pronounced compared to, it's not correlating with the absolute level of a given metabolite. So the various, there are endocrine where you have a hypothyroidism, cortisolism, hypo and hyperglycemia, pituitarism. Now this I will be dealing, and then there will be electrolyte disturbance, which I'll say. Important thing is hepatic and uremic encephalopathies. And then last comes the drugs and toxins like sedatives, barbiturates, clonazepam, diazepam, and you have heavy metal poisonings, other drugs and toxins. So let's first go to the hepatic encephalopathy. Why I took this first? Because this is the most well-described EEG syndrome in hepatic encephalopathy. It is basically a reversible syndrome of brain dysfunction due to advanced liver disease. Now, minimal hepatic encephalopathy may not show anything on the EEG. It can, clinically, it usually presents with altered consciousness, disorientation in time, space, somnolence, stupor, and coma. Now, EEG in HE can provide accurate and sensitive measures of CNS dysfunction, but does not correlate with the ammonia level. So it is important to know that it doesn't correlate with ammonia level, but definitely does correlate with the patient's consciousness level. So if you go to the first, it is divided into 4 stages. The first stage, when the patient is a bit drowsy, is not aware, there's a little personality change, day-night sleep cycle has changed. During this, you may have a slow alpha. You may have a K complex and sleep indels are poorly developed, not so well seen as you'll see in normal sleep, and occasionally triphasic phase may be seen in this. Then comes the second stage where the patient may be more obtundate, more stuporous. The theta activity with occasional FIRDA comes up. The triphasic phase becomes more, and the sleep pattern almost disappears. Okay, sometimes you may see this 14 and 6 hertz positive spikes rate mixed with the delta activity. Then the third stage is the coma, where you have the triphasic phase, which are more and more prominent. And the last stage is deep coma, where you may have a triphasic phase will disappear and you may have a irregular large amplitude delta waves. So this is what it shows a normal EEG. In the first place, you have a good sinusoidal alpha. Then comes the grade 1 EEG, where you can see the alpha is dropping out and a little alpha is becoming a little slower compared to the previous one. Grade 2, where you have more and more theta which is coming up. Then you have a triphasic waves, which I will be showing you more pictures on our triphasic waves, the triphasic waves which are coming up. And then there is a flat EEG, which is in the deep coma. And this is almost like a gasping artifacts, and this are there. So this is a gradual changes in the EEG in hepatic cancer, which you will see. What are these triphasic waves? The way back in 1955, Bickford and Burt coined this term. Now, these are frontally predominant sharp transients, usually greater than 70 microvolts amplitude, with 3 phases, negative, positive, and negative phase. Usually occurs in the runs of 1.5 to 3 seconds. And they do not have a reactivity. They often have an anterior-posterior lag as observed. The largest deflection, they are usually frontally predominant, and it may have an incidence in hepatic encephalopathies as high as 25%. So now let's just see, these are the triphasic waves which you see, and you see the negative phase, positive phase, and a negative phase. So there are 3 phases which you see, and this is the typical of that. And then there is an anterior posterior time lag. These are bifrontally predominant this thing. And you can see in this, these are the 3 phases, 1, 2, and 3. And this is the anterior posterior lag, which you see. Now, when you want to just to go back on this and say that you should not have confusion with this, with non-convulsive status epilepticus, because it's an epileptic triphasic waves, which you may see. But here the duration is shorter. Activity, epileptic sharp, which is called non-convulsive sharp. And they are more L-shaped compared to these which are more of a V-shape. You can see these are more of a V-shaped, whereas those are more vertical and they are L-shaped. And recovery of consciousness with diazepam, benzodiazepine, is very well seen whenever it is epileptic triphasic, because often finally you are still confused and you may give, and then the recovery is not only in EEG you have to also see the clinically whether the patient improves. And that's the way you can differentiate it from the, whether this is a non-convulsive status or it is we are saying it runs of triphasic waves. And it is also that frequency of this non-convulsive is definitely faster. These are 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, but non-convulsive may have a 3 to 4 hertz frequency in this thing. So it is important that you see this. And triphasic